Good morning! We are here with Famitsu Live to do the Taito Egret II Mini Arcade Memories Volume 3. They just started, and I'm going to keep them on mute just because it's just going to be simpler that way. And we will get right to the games when they start announcing them, as I typically do with these sort of reactions. So we'll be back once we actually get a game on screen. Alright, here we go, and Galactic Storm is indeed the very first game announced for the third Arcade Memories. Unsurprising, given the sound effect tease that they gave last month. Everything else, though, is a mystery to me. And as I talked about when I was doing my speculation video, this game looks really cool. This was before Night Striker, but it just looks like an epic space behind the back shooter that's just throwing so much at you. So, looks like a really cool game. This has not been on the Taito Legends compilations of the PS2, so I've not tried this one. So I am pretty excited. Alright, game 2 is Whiz. This is 1985. And I'm, again, unfamiliar with this one, but it looks like a early run-and-gun of sorts. Although it does specifically say shooting up top, so it makes me wonder if there's different gameplay styles. This is probably one that I just didn't really have an opportunity to get a lot of research about. I think that's kind of cute that when you grab the balloon, it literally takes you off into the HUD. But it seems a little bit Sun-like. I imagine that you have... Oh, you actually did take a shot there. I'm not sure if that lost a life. I wasn't looking down at the bottom. Okay, well now we're in hitting phase. Alright, this game's got some energy to it, which I kind of appreciate. Number 3 is Rumba Lumber. This is from 1984. I'm loving the fact that these are very obscure. So this appears to be a maze-style game that you destroy trees, and then you can push rocks to just knock a whole bunch of them down. And that seems to be essential. And you have to defeat the monster. But you have to have trees remaining for bonuses. How interesting. So your goal is to defeat enemies. You probably have to do it with the stones. And if you take too long, more monsters show up. What an interesting concept. Metal Soldier Isaac 2 is our 4th game, and this is from 1985. They're pulling out all kinds of deep cuts on this thing. So it looks like you are a mech suit, and it is a commando-esque run and gun overhead. And it looks like you I'm trying to figure out, because it looks like parts are flying to you, and I don't know if you are yeah, it looks like you're shooting your hands for like a harder attack than just a little blast you've got. This is interesting looking. Number 5 is the game I really hoped would be on here, which is Space Invaders 95, Case of the Lunar Loonies, if I remember its English name. Here's the 1995 game that I expected to be on here, and probably one of the biggest pools, at least for, I think, your not super diehard Taito fans to get excited about. This is a great game. I had it on Taito Legends 2, if I remember right. Unfortunately, the emulation in those were not as good, so I will be very excited to play this with better emulation, because the Egret II has very good emulation. The cool thing about this game is that it is very cameo heavy, so we will see the likes of Sayo-chan from Kiki Kakai, for example. And a bunch of really, really silly sprite work. Another big thing about this is that I think there's boss encounters. Very cool. I'm glad something that I predicted is actually included. Number 6 is Extermination. This came out in 1987. Another game that I don't think was on Taito Legends. They are really going after a lot of these, in my opinion, pretty obscure Taito games. And this is another run and gun overhead perspective type of game, where you are a space guy attacking what looks like aliens. Those bats look familiar. You got some pretty nice environments. You've got a life meter down in the corner so you don't die instantly. Looks like there's stairways, a la Commando on the Famicom NES. And got a life pickup, as well as some options. Took me a second. And may I remind you, this is at 4 a.m. I'm a little slow on remembering words. Yeah, now you've got like a full-on mech suit and you can float. It looks like you could just really add up options, because now we've got 4. Okay, that's a neat looking game. Alright, and number 7 is Dr. Something. Another 1987 title. You are this adorable little spacecraft. It looks like you are deep within cells. And as you do, you pick up money. So this is like a vertical shoot 'em up. We're stacking up little mini ships in front of us. That seems to be adding to our rate of fire, and you can direct them in different ways. It's probably a button press to have them change direction a little bit. Interesting way to have extensions. That's a pretty common shoot 'em up trope. Well, I'm glad we're getting a few more shoot 'em ups so I can add them to my rotation of whenever I feel like playing. That series is not dead. I just don't want to be locked to a schedule. Aquajack is number 8. 1989 looks like another behind-the-back 3D game, but this one predates Night Striker and Galactic Storm. So this could be considered one of the earliest ones. So you're in a hovercraft, so you're stuck to the ground, but you can jump. And we are on title number 8, and they have all been, to my knowledge, Taito games. So nothing from any third-party partners so far. And they've been some really fascinating games. I do love the fact that they are all over the map. To my recollection, though, we haven't had our 1982 game yet. And we are kind of jumping around in years with this. So, with 2 more to go, I imagine one of them will be the 1982 game, unless that was a misreading of the news that I read about. But this looks cool. This looks like a neat game. I think it's really awesome that we're getting, like, all of these style of games. Because a rushing beat's also kind of similar to this style of game. Alright. See what number 9 is. Mr. 2. I called it. And it's our 1982 game. So here we go. Here is our third-party title. Very cool that Taito was able to get a pretty freaking reclusive publisher these days to allow them to get this back out. Is it the greatest game of all time? No. But it's a very solid Dig Dug-like that does a little bit of its own thing. It's a very charming game. The fact that you can push the apples around, I think, adds a lot. If my memory's correct, you have a limited number of shots that you can shoot out. And the goal is to collect all the cherries in the map. So yeah, this is great. This is the exact type of third-party thing I was hoping we'd see. And number 10 from 1988 is Top Landing. So Tatsujin's not involved unless I missed a credit of theirs earlier on. So they're doing their own thing today. So this looks like a flight simulation style game. Really pushing like the scaling technology that Taito had for sure. Like this is kind of impressive because this is all 2D, but it's getting a little bit closer. And my guess is we want to hit that landing pad where we've got this flashing indicator. And as we get closer, more and more of the city is going to pop in. What an interesting choice. Yeah, so it's telling you you're going to land here. There's a little boat. Just chilling. You gotta be careful. Don't want to come in too hard. Very impressive for the time in terms of the visuals. It doesn't look as groundbreaking now because we have games like Flight Simulator that's really like using modern graphics, but for 1988 I think this is pretty remarkable. Alright, I didn't want to sit through the rest of the Famitsu video after the 10 games were revealed, but the shop page is officially up, on the Egret II Mini website, and thanks to the tools of translation I have, we'll be able to check out what's going on. So, as I said at the top, there is a firmware update. So we will need to update the firmware when it is available, which I believe they said tomorrow. So there's a link somewhere around here to do that. I think it's under support. But here is what is included. So you'll get Taito Station Volume 4, and I find it extremely hilarious that Time Gal is on the cover in her stewardess outfit to represent Top Landing. You'll get the 10 cards like you do with the others, of course, the games themselves. And just to clarify, the games, the one that I was not able to read is Dr. Topple's Expedition. I don't know if that's how it was localized or if it was even localized, but that's the cute microscopic cell shoot 'em up. And then Akan Baida is the Japanese name for Space Invaders 95. I also want to correct myself because I realized while I was editing the video that there was another third-party game included on here, which was Wiz. That is a Saibu Kaihatsu game, and the other 8 are from Taito, and 6 of them have never been released outside of the arcades before. So what I didn't watch was that they are releasing a pedestal and a mini stool to go with your Egret for decor. So you plop your Egret on top of this pedestal and you can actually put money in it. So it's basically a bank. Plus you'll get an authentic Taito retro box along with all of the Egret stuff. There's also the Cyber Stick variant, which is exclusively to Amazon.jp. I just went for the standard, but you could also get the pedestal and stool by themselves if you want. If these 10 games didn't interest you. But yeah, that's the dealio with the Egret II Minis Arcade Memories Volume 3. Odds are good there's going to be another one, because when I look at what games aren't on here, there's still some big omissions. And they're mostly the ones I talked about in my video for Levels Plus whenever. So I'll put a link to in the description for that if you want to see some potential stuff in the future. But I think it's really going to depend on how well this sells. And I've already pre-ordered because I love Taito too much to not. Let's call it there. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see ya in the future for something else. Have a wonderful set of days. Until then, take care.